What's going on, guys? My name is Alberto Mendoza. I am a DP and videographer based out of San Diego, California. This is going to be the last video of 2024, and today I want to discuss my top 10 favorite purchases when it comes to camera equipment for 2024. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Number 10 is going to be this Monopod. This is from Avella. I'm not sure if this is a reputable brand or not, but I found it on Amazon for a pretty decent deal. But I would have never thought I would be using a monopod in 2024, since I thought monopods were for like old heads or for just like old school style videography. But I do a lot of events throughout the year, and having a monopod has definitely helped me out. I want to shout to my buddy Jordan, who recommended me getting a monopod because I saw him work with a monopod one time, and I'm like, dude, this is a no-brainer. I should definitely get myself one. Traditionally, I would either run with a gimbal or a tripod, but sometimes we're at an event, you're in tight quarters where a tripod does not make sense. And sometimes with a gimbal, you just kind of want to switch it up and get some stationary shots. Yeah, you could do it on locked tripod mode on the gimbal, but having a monopod is actually quite easy, especially for long talking shots during panels and whatnot. Having a monopod has been amazing for me, and I just love using it, especially during events. At number 9, I want to shout out to the Rode Wireless Pro microphones. These have been pretty solid for me all of this year. I purchased them at the beginning of the year along with the updated Rode Wireless Pro lavalier mics, which is right here. And I'm also wearing it right now for this video specifically. These have been pretty great for me for the most part. I prefer, for the lavalier mics, I prefer last generation's design because the little plastic holder that holds the lav, I've had this one break on me really quickly. So I emailed them to replace it because I couldn't find it anywhere, and they wanted to charge me like 20 bucks for a piece of plastic. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. But outside of that, they've been pretty solid for the most part, for especially for fast social media content for client work. But I've slowly steered away from using these microphones, especially for the kind of work that I've been doing a lot this year, which is pretty much 2-cam interviews, and I've been pretty much having a mic boom to them. So it's a little more of a professional look, and it sounds a little bit clearer and better in my opinion, rather than using a lav mic. Plus, I just can't stand, which I'm actually doing right now, I can't stand having the mic shown in frame. To me, it screams a little amateur. But again, I've been doing this for so many years at this point, so it's like, don't, if it works for you, just keep it the way it is. Like, I'm clearly using it right now. But there's a time and place for me, it's in my opinion, to use a lav mic and not use a lav mic. The worst thing you could do is, I don't like seeing this, and this is just like a YouTube fab where you see just like a clip, like just right here, clip like this. Look at the shirt, it's like dangling. I think it looks dumb, and it doesn't, that really screams like unprofessional and very, very amateur. Or you see people clip it on their hats or whatnot. But again, there's a time and place when to use these lavs or these microphones. But again, it's really up to you. I just try to steer away from showing the microphone as much as possible. But for stuff like this is for YouTube, I don't really care. But for professional work, I definitely want to go out of my way and hide that microphone. These microphones do generate 32-bit flow audio files. Essentially, 32-bit flow is like pretty much shooting in RAW for photos or video, rather than shooting in JPEG or some sort of H.264 codec. But I do like having these laved up to a talent or whatever, especially during like a conference or something like that. I've been in situations where I'm not gonna have access to the actual talent that's gonna walk into the stage between 20 minutes or whatever. So I just turn it on, lav them up, let it run throughout, because it's gonna have internal recording, which has several hours of internal recording, even at 32-bit float. So I have that reassurance that I'm going to capture that crispy clean audio no matter what. I could also just get the receiver and turn that bad boy on and see if I'm connected and it's having perfect levels. So I do like using the Rode Wireless Pro for those situations. Another piece of gear that I want to get into is the SmallRig V-mount battery. I have pretty much purchased this, I want to say in January or so. Originally, I bought this for the A7S III, which I'm filming right now. So I would like to rig it up with my SmallRig cage and put this on as well, and just have the external monitor, all that good stuff. And I remember clients would be like, oh my God, this rig looks crazy big. Let alone, they don't know it's just a dinky mirrorless camera. So like that perception of having a big camera is a real thing, so keep that in mind. But I just love having the ability to just have long battery solution and not worry about swapping batteries and whatnot. And I've also been in situations where I could charge my iPhone with this. I could charge my laptop with this. I've charged my drone in the pinch since I'm out and about and I can't find an outlet. So I've just used this and charged my drone and it's worked pretty great. USB-C, USB, 12 volt out, 8 volt out. So and it's also D-tap as well. So these things are pretty great. When I purchased this battery, this was a pretty hefty price. They want to say like $220, $250 or something like that. But throughout time, like there has been cheaper options to buy these kind of batteries. I know Newer has a cheaper option for these kind of batteries, and there are also more expensive batteries for these. 99 volts is perfect for travel to carry on a plane. So when I flew to Chicago earlier this year to do some work, I flew with this and it was pretty smooth and no questions asked. So these have been pretty great for me. Another piece of gear has been the Amaran 300C light. This thing has been pretty great for me. I actually just purchased one a few weeks ago, but I've been using a 300C throughout the entire year of 2024. I've pretty much just been renting my buddy's 300C all of this year. And so it got to the point where it's like, man, I might as well just buy one myself since I'm using it in almost all of my shoots because I'm used to just running the 200X. As I was building my kit, slowly but surely, I purchased myself a big boy light and got myself an Amaran 200X. At the time, I didn't know much about lighting. So I just purchased that because it's pretty much what I could afford back then. And so for the most part, it does a great job. I could have been using it right now. I probably should have been using it right now. I'm pretty much using natural light right now, but I just want to get this video done and quick. Anyways, 200X is great, but like I've been in situations where it's just not enough output to light up a room or light up a subject. So I eventually started renting out my buddy's 300C. And I just love just having that much flexibility. Don't really use the RGB at all whatsoever, but it's always good to have that option. I thought about getting myself the 300D, thinking it's gonna be a little bit cheaper from Aperture. By the way, Aperture owns Amaran, I'm pretty sure about that. So it's still the same company, but the 300D costs a lot more. It costs like almost $1,000, I wanna say, just for daylights at 300 watts, which to me doesn't make sense, and it has more pieces. So I opted with getting the Amaran 300C, and it's been pretty great for me for my interviews. Another piece of gear that I've loved using this year has been the Sigma 24-7 Mark II. This lens has been pretty great for me as far as shooting B-roll and whatnot. As I mentioned in the past videos, I pretty much grew up with the 28-75 from Amaran 2.8 lens. The lens has been solid for me, but I wanted to upgrade to either a G Master or the Sigma, and like I mentioned in the previous videos, the internet pretty much convinced me to save that extra grand and get myself the 24-70 Sigma because there isn't much of a difference. I did see the Gerald Dunn video, and like he said, there's like barely any noticeable difference. So got myself this instead, and it's been solid so far. I love it. I sometimes do wish I would have like a 75 mil, kind of like on a 28-75 on the Amaran. I do miss having that extra 5 millimeters of punch, but at the end of the day, this still works pretty great. 24, I love shooting a 24 for a lot of my B-roll stuff. And this is a sharp lens. This is a really sharp lens, and it's been pretty great, man. And I can't wait to start using this lens a lot more next year since I did purchase this lens like last month or so. And so I've barely used it a few times. I've used it a handful of times, and I'm very excited to use it next year for sure. Another piece of equipment that I purchased that I love is having these CFexpress cards. I'm currently rocking the Lexar 320 gigabytes and the Pro Grade 160 gigabytes. And yeah, I opted in getting these because the Sony Tough cards are dumb expensive. I had to get this for my FX6 camera, which, spoiler, it's gonna be top 2 on my list. But I didn't want to cheap out, and ironically, I didn't want to just use V90 cards for the FX6. So I eventually just got myself the CFexpress cards. I first started with the Pro Grade 160 gigs, but this was pretty much running out really quick when it comes to space, especially shooting an alt intra. It's just a space eater when it comes to memory. So I opted in getting the Lexar 320 gigabyte card. I got it for a pretty sweet deal on B&H, and it came with the Pro Grade card reader as well. The cool thing about this is when I connect it to my computer, I'm able to put a CFexpress card and I could put a V90 card in the bottom slot and just connect it, and I could import 2 different cards at the same time, which is pretty cool. And CFexpress are really, really fast. Like, I thought V90s were pretty quick, but when I got myself a CFexpress card, the freaking speed is lightning fast. So if you do have like a A7S III or FX3 or even a FX6 or anything past that, I definitely recommend getting yourself a CFexpress card with Sony, Lexar, ProGrade, Angelbird. You decide on what you want to get, but I do recommend getting CFexpress because it's just kind of a game changer when it comes to offloading media to your hard drives. Another piece of tech that I've enjoyed using this year is having an external monitor. I'm currently rocking the SmallRig Cine 5, and for my big camera, I have the Shinobi 5 monitor. These have been great. I've used external monitors in the past. I used to use, again, back in my Brokey days or whatever, I had a Feel World 5-inch monitor, and it was just literally just to have a bigger image and just to compose the shots. Didn't have false color, any of those cool tools. But this year, the reason I'm shutting these monitors out is because this year was the first time using false color, and especially with the FX6. I realized that I did not know how to expose properly, even with the A7S III, and I've had this for 3 years or so. There's a million ways to expose S-Log3. You can see a million videos on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and they all have different answers. I pretty much ran with having the histogram in the middle, but with having false color, I realized that I was overexposing a little bit too much with the A7S III, and it's something I learned this year. So false color is just amazing, dude. I'm telling you, like, if you don't have a monitor with false color, I would probably save a little bit of money and get yourself either a Shinobi 5 or whatever monitors. There's a ton of monitors at this point that support false color. I know there's applications where you could use your iPhone for your cameras, specifically for Sony with the camera control app. I've never used the phone. Since I have these, I don't really need to use the phone, but having a monitor with false color has definitely saved me a lot when it comes to exposing properly. When I first purchased the FX6, I was using Sony EI, and I'm still using it, and it's still very confusing at some points. But just having the false color, it pretty much gave me assurance that I was exposing properly, where before I was just using the little monitor from the FX6, and I was kind of like gunning it and hoping I was getting the right shot. But having external monitor with false color is really a freaking game changer. So if you're a filmmaker and you're worried about exposing properly, I highly recommend getting yourself a monitor that supports false color. And for number 8, this is more for like editing. I got myself the Apple AirPods 4th generation, and these have been amazing. The noise cancellation is great. I do own the Beats Studio Buds. I think that's what they're called. I've had those for years, and they also have noise cancellation with a silicone tip. And the noise cancellation is better on those earbuds, the Beats earbuds, rather than these ones. These ones don't have the silicone tip. These are just like the regular earbuds looking like. The Pros do have the silicone tip, so that does help with noise going into your ear. So that's what makes the noise cancellation a little bit better. But the noise cancellations in these have been pretty great. I pretty much have these on almost all day, almost every day. So I'm either listening to like YouTube, or I listen to a podcast, or when I'm editing and I'm doing some like audio work, these have been pretty great. So AirPods have been amazing, and I freaking love these things. Honorable mentions before I get to the last 2 is going to be my SmallRig mount plate for AirTag. These have been pretty good to attach on my cameras. I have one on my A7S III, and I have one on my FX6. Just have an AirTag. This is for my buddy. I'm gonna actually give this to him later on this week. But that'd be great to just have a little reassurance to know where my gear is at in case I am away. So like if you shoot like weddings or corporate events or anything like that, there are times where you're just kind of away from your bag and your cameras. So it's always good to have that reassurance on your phone to like let you know where that piece of gear is at. So these cost, like I want to say like 15 bucks. So I highly recommend you getting yourself one of these and just attach it to your camera. Another honorable mentions is going to be the Samsung T7 SSD. These have been great. First time using the T7 brand or Samsung brand this year for my editing workflow. As you guys probably know and heard, SanDisk has had a horrible reputation when it comes to their SSDs crashing randomly. I've never experienced that, and I still work off a 2 terabyte SanDisk and a 4 terabyte SanDisk SSD, and it's been, again, I really have never had any issues, but I do make sure I follow protocol and eject stuff properly. I don't just yank them and disconnect them and whatnot. So, but this just wanted to be a little bit more safe. I try to pick up an SSD at least once a year. This is a 2 terabyte one that I'm going to be using for my retainer client next year, and these are just reliable and highly recommend. Last but not least, as far as honorable mentions, it's going to be a color checker video. These have been pretty sweet to have, especially when you're shooting with different camera brands and whatnot. And if you want some reassurance for your editor or for yourself if you're editing this, this definitely helps keeping the colors accurate and white balance accurate, all that good stuff. So these have been pretty good to use, and been enjoying having that reassurance of properly exposing and properly having those colors match from camera A to camera B. Next up is going to be the Sony FX6 camera. Again, this is the first time using an FX6 for a whole 12 months. I purchased this camera this time last year, so it was actually in November of 2023, but I didn't use it, I remember, until like late December, because I was still trying to get to know her, and I just didn't use it for client work. But this year I definitely had a full grasp of using this for 12 months, and it has been a great camera so far. It's definitely a little bit of a learning curve compared to using a mirrorless camera, especially with IBIS. I noticed that I rely a lot on IBIS on the A7S III camera, especially for handheld work. So with this, it definitely taught me how to shoot a little bit steadier, and it's been a phenomenal camera. I love showing up to gigs and the clients see the camera, they're like, oh wow, like they kind of, if they feel a little justified by paying whatever rate they're paying. And so again, it's so dumb since an A7S III could pull off a similar image to the FX6, but this camera has been a dream camera for mine for the last few years, and got it for a pretty good deal. It came with this 24-105 f4 lens. Don't really use this lens as much, but when I do use it, it's been pretty great for me, especially for like events and whatnot. But yeah, this camera is amazing, man. I can't wait to use it in 2025. I've got some pretty dope gigs lined up, and again, I can't wait to just rock this camera. And last but not least, my favorite, by far, favorite piece of gear that I have used this year has to be the MacBook Pro. This specifically is the M3 Max chip MacBook Pro, and has been phenomenal. Like every day, every time I use this, I am just like, I love it, man. I fall in love with it every time I use it, because it's so freaking fast. It's so great. I come from the PC world, used to be the biggest Apple hater because it costs an arm and a leg to purchase these bad boys. And I see why now. So I eventually got myself one. I saw my buddy use his M1 Max last year, and I was just surprised how great it scrubbed on Premiere Pro. I even asked my buddy when he showed me his laptop, I'm like, are you using proxies? He's like, heck no, bro. Like, I'm not using any proxies. And he's shooting with an A1, Sony A1 camera. And so they have pretty large files. And so I'm like, holy crap, man. Like, I need to look into this. And at the time, M3 had just dropped. So I pretty much went balls deep and got myself the M3 Max. And this thing is freaking fast, man. I remember when I first edited a 60+ minute sequence, 2 different cameras at 4K, it rendered it in like less than 5 minutes, I want to say, which if that was in my desktop tower that's like pretty souped up, or my laptop, that would have taken easily like over 30 minutes for sure. So I'm always impressed how fast these things are. I know the M4 chip just dropped, and I can only imagine how fast that thing is too. So if you have an Intel chip laptop and you're thinking about upgrading, I always say, dude, get yourself a MacBook on an M chip, like for sure. Even the M1s are still great. Get yourself an M2, M3, whatever your pockets allow you to purchase. I highly recommend. Don't buy yourself another camera. Don't buy yourself another lens, because if you have a slow editing workflow, this will definitely solve your issue for sure. So this is by far my favorite piece of gear that I've used, and I'm probably gonna be my favorite piece of gear for next year as well. So I love my M3 Max MacBook Pro. But that's going to be it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. Let me know in the comments what are your favorite pieces of gear of 2024 and what do you plan on getting in 2025? As for me, I don't see myself getting anything in 2025 besides just accessories for the FX6. But other than that, I don't see myself getting myself another lens. I don't see myself getting another light. I'm pretty good where I'm at. If anything, I'm flirting the idea of getting myself a better cart for all my equipment, because right now I'm just using a dinky cart that you see at like the beach and whatnot. And at this point, it's a little too full with all my stuff. So if anything, I'm gonna get myself a cart, and I'll be sure to make a video on that. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys plan on getting in 2025? And hopefully you guys had a great 2024, and I'll catch you guys next year. Peace.